we have a build that allows you to 4-tap with a 50-meter ranged weapon on demand, a favorite build of ours that we've been using for over 4 years that just got an amazing buff. A build that makes your hunter into a tank, and much more. If you're looking to try something new in the Crucible, or if you are one of those types that finds Crucible unbearable, then stick around because these builds were made for you. By the 9, how anyone can maintain their sanity while doing that, I will never know. Welcome to Stupid Builds, where I will show you some stupid builds. Some of these builds are our own creations, some are from our live stream chat, but all of them are stupid because of how strong they secretly are. Dear God in heaven above, they've done it! They've done it! They've made the unbelievably poor decision to take one of the most used exotics in the entire game, and they buffed it. This is the Warp Speed build. A build designed to drive faster and blast ass better than any Guardian could ever dream of. They said Shaxx only ever lost to one person in the Crucible, and that was Ikora Rey with this build. Indeed, this build is my go-to build for Crucible, and since my discovery of it all the way back in Forsaken, it has remained on my character long enough for me to rack up a jaw-dropping 50,000 kills with it. Not only because of its ability to force enemies to taste pavement, oh no, but also simply due to its fun factor. Forgive me if I'm droning on, but with 100% honesty, I would have left Destiny 2 many years ago if not for this build. I hope you understand I'm not hyping this up simply for content. I truly do love it. Anyways, time and space are relative to you. You are an unrestricted trans-dimensional rally car with a mounted semi-automatic 308 on the front. The nuclear core of this subatomic supernova is the Mida multi-tool combined with the Astrocyte Verse. Both of these exotics will force everyone else in the lobby to play in slow motion by comparison, as both increase your movement speed and distances. Starting with the Scout, the Mida is a 200 RPM lightweight scout with a speed-boosting exotic perk and a permanent radar even when aiming down sights. The Mida has been a staple in the meta ever since the beta, and it has never completely been power-crept simply due to its respectably chunky stat package and versatility. While it obviously will struggle in closer quarters, its speed and handling allows it to reposition the user well enough for it to be a diminished problem. For longer ranges, it will allow you to keep your radar up to avoid flankers, but it will also reduce incoming flinch if you have the Catalyst. Now for our armor. As you are well aware, somebody at Bungie decided to careen their face along the surface of a keyboard and gave the Astrocyte Verse a buff for some reason. Now, on top of our increased blink distance, ready-up time, and radar awareness, we will also make nearby respawn screen mains volatile. This also has a very silly quirk of causing 250 damage to any player-made objects, such as grenades, threadlings, and even barricades. Between our scout and our helmet, we are faster than nearly every single thing in the game, barring glitches and abilities. Hell, we are able to outrun most supers with this setup. But what good is speed without being able to lay someone out like a log? We run a quick-draw shotgun to act as our fangs in close ranges. What shotgun frame you choose to run is entirely up to you, but it must have quick-draw, or at least max handling. Your ability to perforate someone's face like Swiss cheese depends on how quickly you can ready your buckshot out of a blink. This is one of the few times that our heavy weapon is also critical for the fun factor of this build. Equip an eager-edged sword and master the art of sword swipe blinking. This will take your speedbreaker into a map-crossing back-capping bullet. Oh, and the Astrocyte buff also makes this similar movement in our super cost us nothing. So that's nice. Obviously, we are going to be running a Void subclass, but use Feed the Void and Child of the Old Gods. Both grant survivability and pressure, something that this build is trying to monopolize, as you can tell. For fragments, go for Remnants for a dose of Axion Bolt pressure, Vigilance for better re-engagement, Leeching for brawling tools, and Exchange for a double dose of the throwable purple sonar we call the Axion Bolt. No need to stress on your armor. I only recommend a shotgun holster so you can keep making intercontinental flights without having to refuel, and a high recovery stat. I could spend a full hour gushing over this build, but I will show some restraint and give this a very biased 5 space grapes out of 5 space grapes. A perfect score! Next up, we had a build that caught my attention for reasons I don't think the livestream chatter that gave it to me intended. Our goal was to create an area denial titan with the armamentarium, granting us double vortex grenades with some extra duration from our fragments. This we would feed with the bastion and offensive bulwark aspects to keep the grenades off of cooldown as much as possible. Pairing with this was the ever-gracious sentient glitch, the Telesto. Between both, we were intended to have a build that had up to 5 different ways of spritzing water in the face of shotgun apes. However, because we needed some sort of primary weapon consistency, we also snagged an auto rifle. This auto rifle, to be exact. And my, this turned out to be the real main course of the meal. You may have heard talk that the Amit is quite powerful in the current sandbox. And I am here to tell you that that's true of every 450 auto right now, because hot damn, this weapon didn't know the meaning of stop! We could place one of our anti-ape tools in front of us and then use it like a barrier, with which we shot over the top with our auto. This build both created space, then bent over the knee punished those who were in it. While sure, we didn't have an immediate close or range denial tool like a shotgun or a sniper for a good 80% of maps, we didn't care. We could simply move from engagement to engagement, setting up dead zone and daring anyone to step foot into it. I was like Great Britain in the 17th century. I was colonizing everyone. But this build does have its downsides. Primarily because of the Telesto's lack of immediate damage. If we were in a fight that required reactive measures rather than our proactive plannings, we would often end up trading. Lastly, while I do enjoy the occasional Telesto, as with most Sentinel Titan builds, I found this one to be a tad stereotypical. It is a very safe build, but I tend to prefer a build that is a tad more audacious and bold. 11 meters out of 50 feet. Remember when everyone was doing what they seemed to do best and were complaining about something in PvP? Well, for a while, that something was the renewal grasps, because of the damage resist and general survivability of the user. The solution that Bungie gave us was to slow down the regen of the Hunter's Dusk Field when using these armlets, and now they've decided to undo that. Stasis Hunter with the Touch of Winter, and the Grim Harvest with a side of arm and bow swapping combo on, you guessed it, the renewal grasps. Any idiot with even the smallest moniker of time spent on our Stupid Builds series will know just how biased we are to the sidearm and bow combos. And this holds true here, made better by the fact that we can, at our own discretion, decide to give a big middle finger to everyone and anyone who would rather see us dead by simply standing in our own throwable snow globe grenade. While we are inside the Dusk Field, we gain 4 times resistance, which allows us to suddenly start surviving at bare minimum 1 extra crit from nearly every weapon in the sandbox. This means that we have both close quarter tools needed from the sidearm, the long range tools needed from our bow, and the mid range tools from our resistance stacking and bow swapping. To help keep our grenade up more often, and to make it as deadly as possible, the livestream chatter made sure our sidearm had headstone, and that we ran stasis crystal boosting fragments, like shards and fissures. This build will not treat you wrong, and if given enough time and the right dexterity mods, you can quickly become everyone on the enemy team's least favorite person. 3 white Christmases out of 2 junior mints. You want to hear something depressing? Over 110% of you watching this video aren't subscribed. You want to know something else depressing? Despite the Icefall mantles getting a buff, they still don't work as intended when you respawn. At least I assume. At this point, the bug plaguing this exotic is so old it could start speaking its first words. It might as well just be a feature for all I know. Anyways, the ice falls still will not keep your ability energy when you die, even if you hadn't used them. This means that your overshield will always be on cooldown after death, which frankly just sucks the life out of these. But there is a silver lining. Now with the Icefall Mantles, we gain a stacking stasis weapon damage buff to all stasis weapons, kills, and a full stack of this buff upon popping our barricade. This damage bonus isn't much, but it does grant this silly little rapid-fire scout the ability to 4-tap to the head when you pop a barricade. Unfortunately, this will be very hard to achieve despite our longer-range map because of the aforementioned cooldown problem, but we are scientists just as much as we are war criminals, and thusly I can say, in theory, this build was amazing. In practice, however, I often felt the urge to stick my tongue into an electric outlet. The fun potential is here, but it's locked so firmly behind a fog of spaghetti code that it's really hard to really love this build. But if you want to confuse the shiitake mushrooms out of a guardian, give this build a try, and watch the accusations pour in from your 4-tapping scout. Subscribe for more stupid builds. Bless your faces, and deuces.